Okay, hello everyone. I hope this presentation gets to you, whether it is in person or maybe sent through a link. I'm not sure, but hopefully it all works out. For today's presentation, I'm going to be discussing the food sovereignty movement of the Berkeley Food Institute, based out of California, in Northern California. My name is Jacqueline, and I hope that you guys learned something new from this today. So for some context, I went ahead and put a map here of where Berkeley is located. You can see on the left-hand side where California is in its entirety, and then taking that little red block and zooming it out to show the area of the region. So it's run through the UC Berkeley campus, an educational institution. It's a historically liberal campus with focus on human rights, decolonial ideologies, gender disparities, etc. It's actually one of the only places within California where you can actually get a degree in food systems and specialties within food systems in that way. So I think that a lot of places are now offering ag or ag business degrees, depending on where the area is. But this platform is actually available through the university's campus, which I think makes this program a really awesome one to discuss, just because it is through a public institution that tends to usually have a bit more funding for more variety of initiatives serving students and the local community. So what is the Berkeley Food Institute? It was created to transform food systems and expand access to healthy, affordable food and promote sustainable and equitable food production. They empower new leaders with capacities to cultivate diverse, just, resilient, and healthy food systems. So more than just a program at a university, they work as almost a bridge, bringing together community organization and grassroots organization, connecting academics, government, and other stakeholders to have discussions about equitable food. And we'll get more into some of the programs that they run in a moment. So, how are they pursuing this mission of making this fair and equitable food system? And as we'd seen in our lectures, learning about La Villa Campesina's definition of food sovereignty, having this right and this built-in human right and access to producing our food the way that we would like to, when we would like to, and consuming what is culturally appropriate for us. The Food Institute addresses many of the impediments to systemic change in food systems, which I think is really important, as we've also talked about in our class. Working within a system has a lot of potential for change in a new food regime by creating these productive connections between, like I said, academics, farmers and other local producers, NGOs, governmental agencies within the area, and the civil society and the general public of the Berkeley area. So why? It's to protest and resist the predominance of the industrialized food system, to catalyze the alternative food system of a localized, regional, or these global agri-food networks that can improve food sovereignty, environmental conditions, and human and health justice. So it's this very intersectional approach to setting a stage for dialogue to happen, as well as funding research and allowing for hands-on fieldwork to happen at the educational level. So at the moment, this mission includes four main areas. It's urban and rural agroecology, fair and healthy jobs, good food access, and racial equity. And I think that this racial equity one was added fairly recently, but they've expanded it so that racial equity means equity in general for all peoples coming from the Berkeley area, whether immigrants or Native peoples or people who have been living around the area for anywhere from 1 year, to their whole lives. So the urban and rural agroecology program, what does this include? So they run a Center for Diversified Farming Systems, which examines how different forms of farming along a spectrum of diversification affect human societies and environment. So this is actually a center through the university that you can study under and become a student of. They also give courses in pollinators, mostly on beekeeping, the importance of pollinators, and home gardening, which has really skyrocketed after COVID. They give seminars on soil health that follow the USDA's definitions. And what I really love about this program is that they teach all around Berkeley, different workshops, but they also travel throughout California to give seminars on the soil within those regions and the organisms and vulnerabilities maybe that lie within their specific ecosystems. They also focus a lot more recently on urban agriculture as it is becoming a bigger city, giving out a lot of community grants for research, for community-based research, education through different sorts of public and private school opportunities, and policy projects for people who want to take this community-led research and develop it into new policies in the area. And they actually have a distribution program as well through their urban agriculture to give that produce to underserved communities, which we'll touch on in a moment. Next point, fair and healthy jobs. I'm originally from the Central Valley of California, not near Berkeley, but they do have these ongoing researches with a few students within their program that study heat stress in the Central Valley due to extreme heat. Extreme heat is deemed anything a period of longer than 10 days with over 3-digit temperature in Fahrenheit, which would be probably around 40 degrees Celsius. So really, really warm, maybe 35 to 40 degrees Celsius. Sorry, I'm not completely sure. And it's definitely a problem. This last summer, we actually had over 50 days of triple-digit temperatures in the Central Valley. They also have research for the future of grocery work and essential workers due to COVID. And they're the first in the country to specialize specifically on the intersection between the food sector through all parts and labor rights, which I think is really, really interesting to have a whole center devoted to how the people who are pursuing our food system are really being treated. And they also have these social certifications that act as a market-based effort to lobby for better labor rights. They admit that it's not the number one thing that's going to help our food system, but they do offer it as an alternative for farms around the area to become certified in their social certification program. Additionally, good food access. They provide all food and food recommendations to the Oakland Unified and San Francisco Unified School Districts. They help people enroll in SNAP, which is EBT, which is the US's version of food stamps or low income subsidies for groceries and foodstuffs. They help non-technical audiences, people who maybe haven't applied before, understand the issues. And also at their markets, they allow people for every $1 of SNAP or EBT to have 2 times the purchasing power on fresh produce and healthy foods. So $1 really equals $2 at a local market. They are one of the champions in the area for putting taxes on sodas and high fructose corn syrup drinks. They make most of the food and beverage decisions at the university as well. And the urban agriculture program that we talked about a bit before comes into the umbrella of this good food access as well, as they deliver food that they grow in these urban programs to historically underserved communities. Next, the racial equity portion. They have both organizational and programmatic systems that they have going on. So they've got ongoing staff trainings and diversity within their leadership boards, which I think is really important. It goes from taking a step to have the conversation to really having those people in decision-making positions of power, as well as hosting a lot of community forums, policy engagement, education, and like I said, this kind of roundtable for food regime questions to come into play. So ongoing projects related to food sovereignty that I think are really interesting. They're building an Indigenous medicine garden and community healing garden where you can come in and learn about the history of the lands that have been taken from Indigenous communities in the area. They're attempting to they're actually attempting to end anti-foraging laws and policy so that people have more power to go outside and take food from public areas and grow fruit and different things that are edible. They're also funding training for rooftop home gardens due to COVID. And they have a housing and solidarity program with migrant farmers to ensure that their rights are met and that they're able to provide honest livings for themselves and their families. And finally, they have a Young Leaders Board Summit, which is an amazing way to get Young People's Research funded and fund apprenticeships to bring people from age 18 to 22 back into farming and back into valuing agrarian practices. So I hope you guys learned a little something about the Berkeley Food Institute. I know it's a bit different than other community-led organizations, but still a good example of how public institutions are bringing, re-equipping people and training people on how to lobby for themselves and for the future of their food. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and stop this recording.